What if the most powerful medicine cabinet you'll ever need is literally growing under your feet right now? I'm talking about plants growing in ditches, along trails, maybe even in your backyard that have healed humans for thousands of years. Plants that saved soldiers on battlefields, got entire communities through plagues, and worked when there were no hospitals, no pharmacies, no backup plan. Most of us walk past these healing powerhouses every single day without even knowing what they are. And that's exactly what Big Pharma wants, because they can't patent a weed growing in your lawn. Today, I'm revealing 14 forgotten medical plants that will completely transform how you think about healing, and I've ranked them strategically from impressive all the way to absolutely mind-blowing. Number 1 on this list grows in practically every lawn in America and can stop bleeding and heal wounds in minutes. And number 14, it's literally the plant that aspirin was copied from, except this original version works better and doesn't destroy your stomach. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell. Here at Golden Garden Vault, we're building a community of people who refuse to be dependent on the pharmacy for every little thing. We post new, empowering content every single week that'll save you money and put your health back in your own hands. Drop a comment right now telling me, have you ever used wild plants for healing? I read every single comment, and I want to know where you're starting from. All right, let's get into it. Here are 14 forgotten medical plants, ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Plant number 1, Plantain weed, the trailside first aid kit. We're starting strong with a plant that literally everyone has seen, but almost nobody recognizes as medicine. Plantain weed. Not the banana-like fruit, but that low-growing plant with oval leaves that's in practically every lawn, trail, and sidewalk crack across America. Native Americans called this plant white man's footprint because it seemed to grow everywhere European settlers walked. But here's what's incredible. They quickly learned that this humble weed could treat cuts, burns, insect bites, and infections better than almost anything else available. Modern science has completely validated this traditional knowledge. A clinical trial in Iran found that plantain ointment improved healing of second-degree burns better than standard medical treatment. Studies show it has genuine wound healing, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial effects. The leaves contain compounds that soothe inflammation, stop minor bleeding, and fight infection. Here's the traditional method that still works today. Take a fresh leaf, chew it briefly to break down the cell walls, or just crush it between your fingers, then apply it directly to a cut, sting, or bite. Within minutes, you'll notice the pain and swelling start to decrease. You can also make a strong tea from dried leaves to wash wounds or create poultices for larger skin problems. Why did plantain disappear from common knowledge? Simple. It's everywhere. It's common. It's free. We've been conditioned to believe that real medicine should be rare and expensive, not growing in the cracks of our sidewalks. But for minor injuries, insect stings, and small burns, plantain is immediate, effective, and costs absolutely nothing. It's like having an emergency first aid kit that literally follows you wherever you go, just waiting at your feet for the moment you need it.
Plant number 2, Yarrow, the soldier's herb. Let's talk about a plant that has literally saved lives on battlefields for thousands of years. Yarrow. Its scientific name is Achillea millefolium, named after the Greek hero Achilles, who supposedly used it to treat his soldiers' wounds during the Trojan War. Throughout history, from ancient Greece to World War I, soldiers carried yarrow specifically to pack into wounds. And this wasn't superstition or desperation, it genuinely worked. Yarrow contains compounds that actually shorten bleeding time and promote clotting. Modern studies confirm it has hemostatic effects, meaning it stops bleeding, plus powerful anti-inflammatory and wound-healing properties. The plant grows wild across North America and Europe, producing clusters of tiny white or pink flowers on tall stems. The entire aerial part of the plant is medicinal. You can make a tea for internal use to reduce fever and inflammation, or apply crushed fresh leaves directly to cuts and scrapes to stop bleeding and prevent infection. Here's what makes yarrow truly special compared to other healing plants. It's both a hemostatic that stops bleeding and a vulnerary that actively heals wounds. Most plants do one or the other. Yarrow does both simultaneously. Traditional herbalists also used it for fevers, digestive complaints, and as a bitter tonic to support overall health. Yarrow got forgotten simply because we developed synthetic clotting agents and antiseptics. But for anyone hiking, camping, or working outdoors far from medical help, knowing that yarrow grows nearby and can stop a bleeding cut in minutes is genuinely life-saving knowledge. It's like carrying a battlefield medic in your pocket, except this medic grows wild and free everywhere you look. Are you finding this valuable so far? If you're realizing how much healing power has been hiding in plain sight, hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach more people who need this knowledge. Plant number 3, Calendula, the war flower. Now we're getting into plants with serious battle-tested reputations. Calendula, also called pot marigold, and this bright orange flower has one of the most impressive histories in all of herbal medicine. Medieval soldiers carried calendula flowers into war specifically for treating cuts and wounds on the battlefield. They called it the war flower because when you had nothing else, no surgeon, no antibiotics, no sterile equipment, calendula could keep a wound from getting infected and help it heal clean. Calendula officinalis grows easily in almost any garden, producing cheerful orange and yellow flowers from spring through frost. But those pretty flowers are absolute medical powerhouses. Modern clinical trials have proven what medieval warriors knew instinctively. Calendula extracts speed wound healing, including burns and surgical wounds. Published studies show it promotes tissue repair and reduces inflammation with measurable results. Here's why it works on a chemical level. The flowers are packed with compounds called triterpenoids and flavonoids that have genuine anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties that scientists can measure and verify. You can make a simple calendula salve by infusing the dried flowers in oil, then adding a bit of beeswax to make it consistent. What you end up with is something that'll heal minor cuts, scrapes, burns, and inflamed skin faster than leaving them alone, and often faster than commercial products. The reason calendula got forgotten is brutally simple. Pharmaceutical companies can't patent a flower. There's no profit in telling people to grow their own medicine. But for anyone who wants safe, effective wound care without a prescription or a trip to the store, calendula is still waiting in gardens everywhere. Think of it as the emergency room growing in your backyard that's been there all along, just waiting for you to remember it exists. Plant number 4, Comfrey, the bone knitter. Comfrey has one of the most descriptive folk names in all of herbal medicine, knit bone. For centuries, people used comfrey root and leaves externally on broken bones, sprains, bruises, and torn tissue, and they swore it made healing happen noticeably faster. Turns out they were absolutely right, and modern science can now explain exactly why. Symphytum officinalis contains a compound called allantoin that promotes cell proliferation. That's scientific language for it literally encourages your cells to multiply and repair damaged tissue faster than they normally would. Multiple modern clinical trials, real published peer-reviewed studies have proven that topical comfrey root extract significantly reduces pain and improves function in back pain, ankle sprains, abrasions, and osteoarthritis. We're not talking about folklore here. We're talking about legitimate medical research confirming what grandmothers knew generations ago. Here's the critical safety information you need to know. Comfrey is for external use only.
The plant contains compounds called pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can damage your liver if you take it internally. But used as a salve, cream, or poultice on the skin over injuries, it's remarkably safe and remarkably effective. You can make a simple comfrey salve by infusing the dried root in oil and adding beeswax for consistency. Comfrey got forgotten partly because of the internal use concerns and partly because modern medicine decided broken bones needed casts and x-rays, not herbs. Fair enough for actual fractures, but for the soft tissue injuries that happen constantly in daily life, the sprained ankles, the strained backs, the bruised muscles, the minor tears, Comfrey is still one of the fastest healers nature offers. Think of it as the plant that literally tells your body to knit itself together faster than it would on its own.
Plant number 5, Self-Heal, the appropriately named miracle. This plant is literally called Self-Heal or Heal All, which tells you everything you need to know about how much our ancestors trusted it. Prunella vulgaris was used for virtually any kind of wound, sore throat, mouth ulcer, or inflamed tissue. People trusted it enough to give it the most confident name in all of herbal medicine. Modern research is actually validating that confidence. Scientific reviews show that Self-Heal has genuine wound-healing properties, anti-inflammatory effects, and even disrupts bacterial biofilms. Those are the protective layers that bacteria create that make infections harder to treat with conventional medicine. Traditional uses included gargling for sore throats, applying crushed leaves to wounds, and drinking tea for internal inflammation. Self-Heal grows low to the ground in lawns and meadows, producing purple flower spikes that bees absolutely love. The whole plant is medicinal. You can make a strong tea to use as a mouth rinse for canker sores or sore throats, or apply crushed fresh leaves to minor cuts and scrapes. Here's what's particularly fascinating about Self-Heal. It works exceptionally well on mucous membranes. That means it's excellent for mouth ulcers, sore throats, and inflamed tissue in the mouth and throat. These are places where applying medicine is genuinely tricky with conventional options. A simple tea used as a gargle can bring noticeable relief within hours for mouth and throat problems. Self-Heal disappeared from mainstream use simply because it's another common weed that pharmaceutical companies couldn't monetize or control. But for mouth and throat problems, it's still incredibly effective and completely safe. Think of it as the plant that took healing so seriously, it literally made it part of its identity. Pause and think about this for a second. We've covered 5 plants so far, and every single one of them is probably growing within walking distance of where you are right now. How many times have you walked right past free medicine without even knowing it? Drop a comment and let me know which of these first 5 plants you've actually seen before. I bet it's more than you think. Plant number 6, Mullein, the lung cleaner. Mullein is that tall plant with fuzzy leaves and a spike of yellow flowers that you've probably seen growing in vacant lots and along roadsides your entire life. For hundreds of years, it was the absolute go-to remedy for any kind of lung congestion, coughs, bronchitis, asthma, chest colds with thick mucus. Versablum species were used so commonly for respiratory problems that herbalists simply called it the lung's best friend. The leaves contain compounds called saponins that act as natural expectorants. That means they help you cough up mucus instead of letting it sit in your chest and potentially turn into a more serious infection. Recent scientific reviews confirm Mullein's anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effects specifically on the respiratory system. Here's how people traditionally used it, and this method still works perfectly today. They'd make a tea from the dried leaves, strain it very carefully through cheesecloth to remove the tiny plant hairs, and drink it 2 or 3 times a day when they had a chest cold. Some people even smoked the dried leaves for asthma relief, though that's less common in modern practice. The flowers were also infused in oil for treating ear infections. Mullein disappeared from mainstream medicine because we developed cough syrups and decongestants. But here's the problem with most of those products. They often just suppress the cough without actually helping you clear the infection. They mask the symptom without addressing the cause.
Mullein takes a completely different approach. It helps your lungs do what they're naturally trying to do, which is get the junk out. And it does this without the side effects that come with pharmaceutical expectorants. If you've got a chest full of mucus and a cough that won't quit, Mullein is still growing wild, still completely free, and still working exactly the way it has for centuries. It's like having a maintenance crew for your lungs that's been on call this whole time, just waiting for you to remember to ask for help. Plant number 7, white horehound, the original cough drop. Before there were cough drops in every checkout aisle, there was horehound candy. White horehound, Maribium vulgaris, was so effective for coughs that people literally made it into candy and lozenges, and it was sold in every pharmacy and general store well into the 1900s. Horehound is what herbalists call a classic expectorant. It helps you cough up mucus and clear congestion from your respiratory system. Modern herbal monographs describe it for productive coughs and bronchitis, and it's still used in some European cough syrups and throat lozenges today. The plant contains a compound called merubian that stimulates bronchial secretions and helps break up stubborn congestion. The plant grows as a bushy perennial with fuzzy gray-green leaves and small white flowers. The whole aerial part is harvested and dried. Traditionally, people made a strong tea sweetened with honey, or they'd make actual horehound candy by boiling the tea down with sugar until it hardened. Here's what makes horehound fundamentally different from modern cough suppressants. It doesn't stop your cough and force your body to be quiet. Instead, it makes your cough more productive, helping you actually clear the infection out of your lungs instead of just suppressing the symptom. That's genuine healing, not just symptom management so you don't bother people around you. White horehound disappeared from mainstream use when synthetic cough medicines took over the market, but those often come with side effects like drowsiness, and they don't necessarily help you heal faster. They just make you quieter while you're sick. Horehound is still growing in herb gardens everywhere, still safe, and still turning stubborn, unproductive coughs into productive clearing. Think of it as the cough drop that actually wants you to get better, not just stop annoying everyone in the movie theater.
Plant 8, Boneset, the flu fighter. Now we're getting into the really powerful medicines. Boneset, Eupatorium perfoliatum, was so famous as a flu remedy in the 1800s that practically every household kept dried boneset on hand for when the inevitable fever and body aches hit. It was called boneset because the deep muscle aches of flu were called break-bone fever, and this plant seemed to cure them. Boneset was genuinely one of the most important medicines during the great influenza epidemics of the 19th century. People would make a hot tea of the dried leaves and flowers and drink it at the first sign of flu symptoms: fever, chills, deep aching, exhaustion. Ethnobotanical sources describe it as a febrifuge, which means fever reducer, and an immune stimulant. While robust modern clinical trials are still lacking, the historical evidence of effectiveness is overwhelming. The plant grows in wet meadows and along streams, producing flat clusters of white flowers in late summer. The whole aerial part is harvested when flowering. Here's fair warning: the tea is intensely bitter. Some people say it's one of the most bitter medicinal teas they've ever tasted, but that bitterness was actually seen as part of what made it work. Here's the traditional method. At the very first sign of flu symptoms, you drink a cup of hot boneset tea, get into bed, and sweat it out. The plant seems to help the body mount an effective fever response and immune reaction. Many people throughout history swore it could stop a flu in its tracks if caught early enough. Boneset got forgotten as vaccines and antiviral medications became available. But for the general flu-like illnesses that still hit us regularly, the ones that aren't actually influenza but make you feel absolutely miserable, Boneset remains a powerful traditional remedy. Just be aware, the tea is incredibly bitter and you're taking it when you already feel terrible. But sometimes the best medicine doesn't taste good. It just works. Plant 9, Elecampane, the deep lung tonic. Elecampane is where herbal medicine gets serious about deep respiratory healing. Inula Helanum was the remedy that experienced herbalists reached for when someone had a deep, stubborn lung infection, the kind of wet, productive cough that just won't quit, chronic bronchitis, or lingering chest congestion after pneumonia. The root of elecampane contains compounds called sesquiterpene lactones that have antitussive, which means cough calming, and antimicrobial effects. Scientific reviews describe it for chronic cough, asthma, and lung disease. Recent research confirms antimicrobial activity specifically against respiratory pathogens. Elecampane grows as a tall perennial with huge leaves and sunflower-like yellow flowers. The thick roots are harvested in fall, dried, and used in decoctions, which are long simmered teas or tinctures. The taste is complex, slightly bitter, warming, and aromatic. Here's the traditional approach that sets elecampane apart. For deep lung problems, you don't just take it once and expect miracles. You take it in small, frequent doses over weeks or even months. It's not a quick fix for acute symptoms. It's a deep lung tonic that helps your respiratory system genuinely heal and strengthen over time. Herbalists often combined it with other lung herbs for stubborn respiratory infections that conventional medicine struggled to fully clear. Elecampane disappeared from common use partly because it requires patience. It works slowly and deeply rather than giving instant relief, and partly because antibiotics seemed much faster solutions. But for chronic, lingering respiratory weakness, the kind where you just can't seem to fully recover after a bad illness, elecampane still offers something that antibiotics simply don't provide: genuine healing and strengthening of lung tissue itself. It's not just fighting the current infection, it's rebuilding the battlefield so future infections have a harder time taking hold. Plant 10. Sea Buckthorn, the Himalayan skin healer. Sea buckthorn might be the ultimate forgotten superfood medicine. This spiny shrub with bright orange berries has been used in Tibetan, Russian, and Chinese traditional medicine for centuries, specifically for healing skin and mucous membranes from the inside out. Modern science has caught up in a genuinely impressive way. Hippophae rhamnoids produces berries so rich in vitamins, antioxidants, and omega-3 fatty acids that Russian cosmonauts used sea buckthorn oil in space to protect against radiation damage. That's not folklore, that's documented space program medicine. Recent human studies show that sea buckthorn oil can improve skin barrier function, speed wound healing, and help with dry, inflamed mucous membranes throughout your entire body. Everything from dry eyes to chronically inflamed tissue. Here's what makes it genuinely special. The oil from both the berries and seeds contains a rare omega-7 fatty acid that specifically supports mucous membrane health throughout your body. Clinical trials have shown real, measurable improvement in dry skin, eczema, atopic dermatitis, and even dry eye syndrome and vaginal dryness after menopause. Sea buckthorn disappeared from Western medicine simply because it grows in harsh, remote climates, the Himalayas, Siberia, high mountain regions. It wasn't easily available. But you can grow it in cold climates if you have the space, and the oil is now available as a supplement. For anyone dealing with chronically dry, inflamed skin or mucous membranes, the kind of dryness that regular moisturizers just can't touch, sea buckthorn does what most products only pretend to do. It actually heals from the inside out, not just coating the surface temporarily. It's like having an internal repair system delivered in a berry that thrives where almost nothing else will grow. All right, we're in the home stretch now, and these last few are absolute game changers. If you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about taking control of your health. Make sure you're subscribed to Golden Garden Vault so you don't miss future content. We're just getting started building this knowledge base together.
Plant 11. Toothache plant, the instant numbing herb. This plant lives up to its name in the most dramatic way you can possibly imagine. toothache plant, Spilanthes or Acmella species, contains a compound called spilanthol that creates an instant tingling, numbing sensation in your mouth. Chew a fresh flower or leaf, and within literal seconds, your entire mouth goes numb. The effect is so strong that first-time users are genuinely shocked. Traditional healers use this for exactly what you'd expect: toothaches, but also mouth ulcers, sore throats, and any painful oral condition. Scientific reviews confirm local anesthetic and analgesic effects, and it's still used in some traditional medicine systems specifically for oral pain. The plant grows as a small annual with yellow and red cone-shaped flowers that look like tiny alien spaceships. The flowers have the strongest numbing effect, but the leaves work too. You can grow it easily in warm climates or containers. Here's the traditional use that still works perfectly. At the first sign of tooth pain or a mouth ulcer, chew a fresh flower or leaf and let it coat the painful area. The numbing effect is immediate and can last for 30 minutes or more. It doesn't cure the underlying problem, obviously. If you have an abscess, you still need a dentist, but it gives genuine, powerful pain relief while you address the actual cause. Toothache plant got forgotten in the West simply because we have commercial numbing gels and pain relievers readily available. But for anyone interested in natural pain management or dealing with mouth pain when nothing else is available, this plant is absolutely remarkable. It's like having instant dental anesthetic growing in your garden, waiting for the moment someone bites down wrong. Plant 11. Oregon grape, the skin healer. Oregon grape isn't actually a grape at all. It's a spiky-leafed evergreen shrub with yellow flowers and blue berries. But Mahonia aquifolium has something that makes it genuinely special in the world of herbal medicine. It's one of the very few herbs with solid clinical evidence for treating chronic skin conditions like psoriasis. Multiple published studies have shown that topical Oregon grape extract significantly improves psoriasis and atopic dermatitis symptoms. We're talking about real peer-reviewed medical research here. The plant contains berberine and other alkaloids that have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects specifically on skin. Traditional use included both topical application for skin problems and internal use for digestive issues. The bright yellow inner bark of the roots and stems is the medicinal part. You can make a salve or cream from it or find commercial Oregon grape products specifically formulated for psoriasis. The effect isn't instant. You need to use it consistently for weeks to see real improvement. But that improvement can be genuinely significant. Here's why this matters so much. Psoriasis and eczema are chronic, frustrating conditions that don't respond well to most treatments. Many conventional treatments have serious side effects with long-term use. Oregon grape offers a botanical option with actual clinical backing, not just traditional use and anecdotal evidence, but modern scientific studies showing real, measurable improvement. Oregon grape got forgotten simply because it grows primarily in the Pacific Northwest and wasn't widely available elsewhere until relatively recently. But for anyone dealing with chronic, scaly, inflamed skin conditions that make you self-conscious and uncomfortable, it's absolutely worth seeking out. It's like having instant dental anesthetic growing in your garden, waiting for the moment someone bites down wrong. Plant number 13. Barberry, the ancient antimicrobial. We're getting close to the end, and these final plants are absolute powerhouses. Barberry has been used for over 2,000 years across multiple medical traditions, and modern science is finally proving exactly why it works. Berberis vulgaris contains an alkaloid called berberine that's now one of the most studied plant compounds in modern medicine. Berberine has documented antimicrobial effects against bacteria, fungi, and parasites. It has anti-inflammatory effects. It supports digestive health and has been shown to help with diarrhea, especially infectious diarrhea. Recent research even shows impressive metabolic benefits, improved blood sugar control and cholesterol levels that rival some pharmaceutical medications in clinical trials. Traditional use goes back millennia, with barberry appearing in ancient Persian, Ayurvedic, and Chinese medicine. The bright yellow inner bark of barberry roots and stems contains the highest concentration of berberine. It can be prepared as a tea, alcohol tincture, or concentrated extract. The taste is intensely bitter, which is actually part of what makes it effective for digestive issues. That bitterness triggers important digestive responses. Here's what makes barberry genuinely special in the world of medicinal plants. It's one of those rare cases where traditional use and cutting-edge modern science align almost perfectly. Ancient healers used it for digestive infections, liver problems, and inflammatory conditions. Modern research confirms antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, liver protective, and metabolic effects. The evidence is substantial, growing, and impressive. Barberry got forgotten in the West, partly because the shrub is thorny and aggressive, and partly because synthetic antibiotics seemed more reliable, easier to standardize, and more profitable. But with antibiotic resistance becoming a genuinely serious global problem that threatens to make common infections deadly again, berberine-containing plants like barberry are getting a very serious second look from researchers. It's the ancient medicine that's becoming cutting edge again because we're finally running out of synthetic alternatives that still work.
Plant number 14, Meadowsweet, the original aspirin. And here we are at number 14, the one I saved for absolute last because it represents everything we've talked about today in one perfect example. Meadowsweet, Filipendula omeria, is the plant that aspirin was literally based on and derived from. Before synthetic aspirin existed, people used meadowsweet for pain, fever, inflammation, and interestingly, stomach irritation and ulcers. Here's the fascinating history that shows how we sometimes actually make things worse when we try to improve on nature. Meadowsweet contains salicylates, the exact same class of compounds that aspirin is based on. When chemists first synthesized aspirin in the late 1800s, they derived it from salicylic acid found in plants like meadowsweet and willow bark. But here's the incredible twist that Big Pharma absolutely doesn't want you to know. Meadowsweet doesn't cause the stomach irritation, ulcers, and bleeding that aspirin is famous for causing. In fact, traditional herbalists specifically used it to soothe and heal stomach inflammation while simultaneously relieving pain and fever. The flowers and leaves are harvested and dried for tea. The taste is actually pleasant, slightly sweet with an almond-like aroma that's quite enjoyable to drink. Studies confirm genuine anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving effects from the salicylates and other compounds working together synergistically. Traditional use included tea for headaches, arthritis pain, fever, and digestive discomfort all at the same time, problems that aspirin would actually make worse. Meadowsweet grows in wet meadows and along streams, producing creamy white clusters of fragrant flowers in summer. It's been used in Europe for centuries and was one of the absolute most important pain-relieving herbs before modern pharmaceuticals. Here's what makes this plant the absolute perfect ending to our entire list. Meadowsweet shows us exactly how we took nature's balanced medicine, isolated one single compound, synthesized it in a laboratory, and somehow ended up with something less balanced and more problematic than the original whole plant. The whole plant offers genuine pain and inflammation relief without the stomach damage, ulcers, and bleeding that isolated aspirin commonly causes. That's the genuine genius of whole plant medicine that we've completely forgotten in our reductionist approach. Nature's formulations are often dramatically better than our attempts to improve them by isolating single active compounds and ignoring everything else. Meadowsweet got forgotten because aspirin became cheap, standardized, patentable, and available everywhere. Pharmaceutical companies could patent the synthesis process and make billions of dollars. But for people who can't tolerate aspirin's serious stomach effects and bleeding risks, or who want a more balanced, holistic approach to pain and inflammation, Meadowsweet is still growing in ditches and meadows everywhere, still relieving pain, still reducing inflammation, still protecting the stomach, still doing exactly what it's done for thousands of years before we tried to improve on it. It's the original medicine that's been waiting patiently for us to remember that sometimes, often, the natural version is actually better than the synthetic copy we replaced it with.
So there you have it, 14 forgotten medical plants, strategically ranked from impressive all the way to absolutely incredible. Let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today. We started with Plantain, the trailside first aid kit growing in every lawn. Then Yarrow, the soldier's herb that stops bleeding on battlefields. Calendula, the war flower that heals wounds. Comfrey, the bone knitter that speeds tissue repair. Self-heal, living up to its confident name for wounds and sore throats. We covered Mullein for lung health and congestion. White Horehound as the original effective cough drop. Boneset, the powerful flu fighter from history. Elecampane for deep chronic lung healing. Buckthorn for skin and mucous membranes from the inside out. Toothache plant with its dramatic instant numbing effect. Oregon grape with solid clinical backing for psoriasis. Barberry with its powerful berberine that modern science keeps validating. And finally, Meadowsweet, the original aspirin that's actually better than what we replaced it with. Think about what we've really covered here today. These aren't just interesting plant facts to forget tomorrow. This is genuine, practical knowledge that could save you money, keep you and your family healthier, and make you significantly less dependent on the pharmaceutical system that profits from keeping you sick and dependent. Here's what I want you to do right now. First, if you found this valuable and you learned something that could genuinely help you or someone you care about, hit that like button. It directly helps this video reach more people who desperately need this knowledge. Second, subscribe to Golden Garden Vault and ring that notification bell. We're building something genuinely special here, a community of empowered, knowledgeable people who refuse to be completely dependent on systems that don't actually have your best interests at heart. We post new, empowering content every single week that will save you money, improve your health, and put your power back in your own hands where it belongs. Third, drop a comment below and tell me, which plant are you most excited to try first? Which one surprised you the most? Have you used any of these before? What other forgotten remedies do you want to learn about? I genuinely read every single comment, and your feedback directly shapes what content I create next. Fourth, share this video with someone you care about, your friends, family members, anyone who's interested in natural health or tired of being dependent on Big Pharma for every little thing. This information is too valuable to keep to yourself. And finally, if you want to go even deeper into medicinal plants, natural remedies, and taking control of your health, check out the other videos here on Golden Garden Vault. We're building a comprehensive library of forgotten knowledge that used to be common sense. The pharmaceutical industry has spent billions of dollars making sure you forget this knowledge. They profit when you're dependent, when you're sick, when you think medicine can only come from a prescription. But now you know better. You know that genuine healing has been growing all around you this entire time, just waiting for you to remember. If you are looking for places to get some of these plants, I linked some of them in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I'm so glad you're here as part of this community. Now go out there and start recognizing the medicine that's been hiding in plain sight your whole life. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay empowered, stay healthy, and remember, the best medicine is often the one that's been there all along.